Welcome, Wargamers, to the fleshy, sinewy corners of the mortal realms, because today we are talking all about the Clans Moulder, one of the various sub-factions that you can take units from in the Skaven Battle Tome here in 3rd edition. This video was requested by user John Britt in a comment in a previous video. Thank you so much, John, for pointing this story out for me, because it absolutely made my day. I use comments for inspiration for future videos, so if there's something you would like to see, be specific and throw it in the comments down below, and I might choose it to do a video on. So in today's video, we're going to talk all about the Skaven, specifically Clans Moulder, who they are, what they want. We're going to have an exemplary battle because this one is a doozy. Then we'll head over to the Clan Moulder actual lore section later on in the Battle Tome, cover any missing details, talk about some highlighted units, that kind of thing, and then wrap up this video with the question, why is this cool? Putting it in the context of the greater Age of Sigmar universe. And I'll get to that right after I mention not just gaming. If you like this video and you are looking to start a new Skaven army or just any future hobby projects, please consider using my affiliate link in the description down below. Not Just Gaming is an awesome store here in the US with 15 to 30% off discounts on a ton of stuff, from Games Workshop things to hobby supplies from companies like AK Interactive, Gamers, Grass, Green Stuff World, Turbo Dork, and more. So they really have everything you need. If there's anything big or small, every little time that someone uses that link, it goes to supporting me, my wife, our cats, and I could not be more grateful. Thank you so much to everyone who already has. Now, for those of you who are new to Age of Sigmar, have no idea who the Skaven are, these are essentially the conniving rat men of the setting. Probably Games Workshop's most iconic intellectual property, in my opinion. Everyone loves the Skaven. They're the perfect protagonist and antagonist, depending on if you play the army or not. Every single one of them thinks they are like the chosen one of their deity, the Great Horn Rat, and I will rise because I'm the best, I'm the smartest. All I need to do is stab a few backs to rise to the top, and then I will be the hero of the story. But there's just billions of them that all think the same thing. And they express their sort of religious devotion to the Great Horned Rat, or their desire to, I guess, bring about its will in a few various ways. And this is really what separates the various clans, the sub-factions of the Skaven. Each of the clans represent a different way to bring about the Great Horned Rat's will. Whether it's through teeming masses of numbers like Clan Verminous, through all kinds of arcane technology, the weapons of Scryer, the magics of the Master Clan, the diseases of Clan's Pestilence, but today we're talking about the flesh crafting of Clans Moulder. You like that? You like that transition? I'm a professional. So we're going to start our discussion about Clans Moulder with an exemplary battle from the timeline section earlier in the Age of Sigmar Battle Tome, their newest one. It's called Rise of the Flesh Shapers. As the warping power of chaos floods across the land, the Flesh Shapers of Clans Moulder find endless opportunities to refine their vile craft. Moulder siege fiends and hell pit abominations tear down the walls of many Order strongholds, which are soon overrun by swarms of ravenous, dog-sized rats. It's not only allies of the God King who would feel the wrath of the Master Moulders. In Gurish continent of Antdor, the Flesh Shapers wage a vicious war against the Auric war clans known as the Bone Grins. For the Greenskins resent the presence of Skaven beast hunting packs in their sacred territories. To the fury of the Master Moulders, the Aurics prove surprisingly adept in slaughtering their muscle-bound creations. This setback causes them to experiment with new warpstone-based procedures, such as suturing vorpid stinger clusters, extra fang-stuffed mouths, and prehensile tail limbs onto their warbeasts with predictably gruesome and effective results. Now, people who have been listening to the channel for a little while will know exactly why I love this story. It's because it's got bone splitters in it. The Bone Grins are a different sub-faction. We'll talk about them in a different video. But to make it a brief summary, the Bone Splitters are super mad because these Skaven hunting packs that are filled with all these crazy big monsters are invading their hunting territory. Hunting is both a religious and practical part of the Bone Splitters' lives. So encroaching upon that territory is a no-no, but also what invaded this territory but a bunch of really big beasts filled with bones. And so the bone splitters are like, heck yeah, dude, and probably loved the fight, at least against like the big things, hell pit abominations and so on. It just seems like the best, I don't know, GW, make a box set for it. Master Moulder and Bone Splitters. Oh, that would be a great box, because then they could finally make my the unit that I want for Bone Splitters, the Werebores. And then some unique hero for Skaven Moulders. GW, make it happen. But anyway, this story, aside from my love of Bone Splitters, tells us a great deal. So they really saw their prominence come to fruition in the Age of Chaos, which is when this story takes place. And that is specifically as chaotic powers and Warpstone, which is corrupted Realmstone, really starts to become quite prolific in the setting. Things just got really dark and twisted. And as a result, they had more materials to work with when it came to their... It's called flesh crafting here, but essentially what they do is they have a mix of surgical operations and then use corrupted Realmstone magics to kind of augment the healing abilities. So I can combine different body parts together, give you an extra set of arms or something like that. You do the surgery, and then you kind of mend the wound with arcane power to make it actually heal and function. It shouldn't, it's one of those things like we shouldn't do this, it's against God. But Warpstone makes it possible. There's also a few other applications for this as well. Part of it is like feeding a steady diet of Warpstone material to rats to like stimulate specific types of growth. That's why you have dog-sized rats, in addition to huge swarms that are hyper-intelligent and can be responsive in real time. Now, the way that the Skaven clans interact is a lot of times one Skaven character, could be from any clan, really gets a vision for grandeur or a mission or a way to seize control or an opportunity, and they'll take their clan, all the power that they have, and they'll go to the other clans and be like, hey, listen, I want to hire you and some of your boys, right? Let's get a few guns from the Skyer boys. Let's get a few things of pack rats or clan rats we can just throw at the enemy as bait from Verminous. And most Skaven armies are actually culminations of various clans. And so really the question, instead of, how does the Moulder clan differ in terms of like their beliefs and stuff, like typically other sub-factions do, really the question is, what do they add to the greater Skavendom? Why would somebody hire the Clans Moulder? Well, when we talk about flesh crafting, the example I gave was just adding a third arm or something very small, right? That's a very small mutation in the grand scheme of things. What their specialty is living war machines. The Skaven don't typically have a lot of actual martial strength. They have numbers, sure. Clan rats can just line up with their little shields, hop on the objectives, and ignore battle shock for whatever reason. Even though canonically they spend half of the book just peeing themselves in fear. It's whatever. But they don't have a whole lot of like go out there and cause damage kind of muscle. And that's where Moulder comes in. When you need melee action to tear through something, whether it is a Stormcast or a wall, you call Clans Moulder. Now they have a whole bunch of units here that all have like a half a paragraph of lore just to kind of get you just excited enough to buy a model. The real center points here that I want to focus on that really define the faction. The biggest ones, of course, being the Master Moulders themselves. These are the evil genius doctors of psychosurgery. And if you want to have a Moulder-themed army, these are certainly going to be the heroes, probably acting as your general. There's no named one. Nor is they a vermin lord, like a demonic one that's associated particularly with Moulder, so these will likely be your characters that you're using. And so these are geniuses in a few different ways. One is surgical, understanding the Skaven body and how to manipulate it surgically, but they also understand how to harness the power of warp mutations. Now it's always chaotic, they can't predict with 100% certainty, but no Skaven can predict how their things are going to work anyway, even the scientists at Scryer, so they get a pass. They can kind of make specific types of mutations happen. Tentacles, claws, that kind of thing. But they also have a strange religious aspect, which doesn't come up, or at least I haven't really ever seen it come up before, in that they truly perceive the Great Horned Rat, their deity, as this roiling mass of flesh. Probably one of the truest, I would say, depictions of the Great Horned Rat. I'll read this off here. The Clans Moulder worship the Great Horned Rat in the image of the writhing broodsire, a gigantic, shapeless mass of verminous flesh with trillions of tails and yellow gnawing fangs. And so their goal is to bring that into reality. So if I can make a big enough monster that absorbs enough Skaven, just this nasty, massive flesh thing that is in constant chaotic kind of change, almost reminds me of the, is it Gavespawn of the Beasts of Chaos? Where it's like their perception of chaos is this constant mutation, this kind of weird, fleshy abomination. And so, as they're crafting creatures, there's a practical element of what they need this monster to accomplish, but also this desire of, like, it's furthering their research to unlocking the key to bringing this grand creature into reality. So that's your Master Molders, awesome characters, it's awesome to have a centerpiece, and it makes sense actually to have multiples of them because it makes sense that they would have different lines of research working in tandem. Certainly the most popular and ubiquitous of all the Moulder units are the Rat Ogres. Now, I thought, going into this, that Rat Ogres were going to be, they take a Skaven and inject it with all kinds of things, basically like Bane from Batman, at least the old one, where like he had like the chemicals injected into him and then he got really, really big. But in actuality, these are actually captured ogres. They took a Skaven and a captured ogre and fused the two together. And like I said, it's a mixture of surgery, putting certainly a Skaven brain and head, brainstem and head onto the ogre's body, and then grafting that with all kinds of dark arcane magic and crap. If there was any damage to the ogre's body when they brought it in, maybe somebody ate off an arm or something like that, well then we can just put a meat cleaver there or something horrific. Now Rat Ogres are a thing that I definitely, their models are a thing that holds back the unit. Meaning they just don't have great models. If there was like an awesome, I don't know, 6-pack of a new thing of Rat Ogres, in terms of like unit size, maybe you could have 2 units of 3 in there or something, it would be incredible. And they should be. This is the tank arm of the what's available to most Skaven clans. They're the kind of thing that other war bands of Skaven would come in and I'll purchase, one of your packmasters and 2 Rat Ogres, and as long as that clan can keep those things fed, that's an asset to them forever. And that's exactly how Clans Moulder sells out their services. And so that's why you'll see them in a whole lot of different Skaven armies. Now, that might be their most prominent, the thing you see the most often in terms of its sellability, the most accessible. My favorite unit within the Moulders thing is definitely the Hell Pit Abomination. It is the pinnacle of fleshcraft, and the idea is simple. How do we make a living siege weapon, a true siege weapon? It can go through castle walls, so it has to have an immense amount of bulk to it. So we're talking something that is truly colossal in scale, thousands and thousands of pounds of just roiling flesh. Well, they accomplish this by just stitching together any hunks of meat, of found corpses, body parts, anything. Just meld it all together. Oh, if it needs a little bit more strength in the left leg, okay, we'll just rip off some thighs off of some random animal, graft it in there, boom, thigh muscles. But when you just keep doing that and just keep adding flesh and random muscles that all push off each other and cartilage and bone structures, it's just this, again, it's an abomination. They call it the Hell Pit because it's just a bunch of mass and gore and like viscera thrown into a pit, and then you have to kind of figure out a way to craft a creature out of this thing. The depictions of it from the book, it always like looks wrong and like it shouldn't exist. It's kind of the way it's described. You're like, what is that mass of dead animals? Oh god, it's like a thing. It's like one thing made of many things that shouldn't be a thing. Now, of course, owing to their resemblance of this ever-changing swath of skin and stuff like that, it is kind of revered as like a holy weapon that can be unleashed by the Clans Moulder. It's a really big deal to have a few of these. One thing that's not so much highlighted in this battle tome, but was highlighted in previous Skaven lore, is like there's something about the Hell Pit Abomination that part of the magics that were infused into it were to help it regenerate. It's always trying to heal. Not only does it have this massive super body structure, but it has the healing factor of all the various things that it's made up of. So it's constantly sewing itself shut. In game terms, it heals a couple wounds each turn. But the reason I point this out is in lore, if you were, say, a clan rat who got too close to a hell pit abomination, and then, like, you got crushed by it, or like your arm got stuck to it or something like that, you would be sucked in and sewn in and become part of this grotesque monstrosity. So it's like, I don't know, the Thing from the movie The Thing, that's just constantly absorbing stuff into it and mutating on the fly. And then when that rolls up to a castle wall, there's enough momentum and force and muscle and spikes and points of pressure to be able to collapse things around it. Now that's really the lore that there is, right? I think that story regarding the rise of the fleshcrafters was really what John was talking about in suggesting this video, and right on, it's the best story because it has bone splitters in a Skaven book. You can't go wrong with that. But as far as why Moulder is cool in general, they are certainly, if anything was ever going to tempt me to get back into Skaven, I want a Clans Moulder army. For the same reason that I find like the Dark Eldar to be so interesting in 40k is like the idea of like that flesh crafting has always been this cool thing. Like I love the body horror aspect of it. I'm a sucker for those kinds of movies where it's like, it shouldn't be. That's that old mad scientist of like sewing things together that shouldn't be, or the movie, the original black and white movie The Fly, when they switch heads and that's all it is. That kind of stuff, I'm a sucker for it. What's interesting to me, though, is how prominent they have an opportunity to be in the era of the beast. So our current Age of Sigmar chapter is all about bestial magic, and animals, flora, fauna are all just magnified in strength and might and aggressiveness. Well, what happens when a whole bunch of raw material for Clans Moulder is suddenly dumped onto the setting? That's a huge deal. Not only is it just more animals, but they're the biggest, juiciest, meatiest, muscliest ones among them, and you're plugging them in to make hell pit abominations, or rat ogres, or any other number of factions that are out there. Seems like Moulder would be doing good. Business is good for them. This would be the perfect time to get some new Moulder models. Plus, they are one of the, I think, the more interesting ways to play a really elite Skaven army. The other one being Scryer, because Storm Fiends are super, expensive points-wise. You can fill up a list very easily with them. But Moulder, to me, if you're going a pure thematic thing, Rat Ogres are so freaking fun. Hell Pit Abominations, 2 or 3 of them just wading through. None of the troops want to be near them because they don't want to get sucked into it. And then just a Master Moulder model in the back, overlooking the battlefield of like, I am the fleshy god. That's just pretty much exactly what I envision my Skaven army to be. And now I feel like I'm talking myself into it in real time. But I'm not gonna do it. The best part of this thing was the bone splitter part. But anyway, friends, I would love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the Clans Moulder? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you have a Moulder army, I would love to hear about it. And again, thank you, John, for leaving this comment. And if there's something specific you would like information of, sub-factions in particular are really easy for me to do this kind of format for, leave it in the comments down below and I will get to it soon. Thank you all so much for watching and listening, and I'll catch you next time. Happy wargaming.